The Red River Showdown quickly approaching. So let's break this thing down with a man who has been to an OU Texas game or two in his time. Publisher of SI Sooners, John Hoover. John, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me.
I'm good, Caden. Thanks for having me, man.
It's good to see you. All right. When we were texting back and forth earlier today, you said you think this is all about the quarterbacks. It's almost everything in this matchup. So let's start there. Spencer Rattler. It's hard to imagine a freshman quarterback being more talented, and even though it's been uneven at times, you know, especially with some key throws late, it's hard to imagine a freshman quarterback playing much better considering the circumstance than he has so far. But on the other side is this guy who's going to be taking on the Sooners for a fifth time, who's had 13 total touchdowns in his first 4 games against OU, Sam Ehlinger. And now he's got Mike Yurcich calling plays for him. I think that's a lethal duo, and the wide receivers are great. So the quarterback matchup, it's not only about those guys, it's also everything around them. But how do you see that thing shaking out? I hate to say who's got the advantage because that seems obvious, but talk me through just how big quarterback play will be in this game and who has the edge.
Yeah, you know, I think Jalen Hurts bucked the trend last year when he came in as a grad transfer from Alabama, where he had played against Auburn and he had played in SEC championships and he had played in national championships. He came into that thing last year for the first time, and he grew up in Houston. And I asked him in Lawrence, Kansas, hey, man, what can you tell me about OU Texas? Are you ready for this atmosphere? And he said, I've played in Iron Bowls. So he bucks that trend a little bit, but the trend is this, Caden. 2-14-1. That is the record of inexperienced quarterbacks who go up against guys who have played in this game before. That doesn't bode well for Spencer Rattler. Spencer, I think he's unbelievable. I think he's got the best arm that we've seen from an Oklahoma quarterback, probably since Bradford, maybe even more, a little more electric than Sam. But for him to succeed, he's going to have a bunch of other guys around him play well. He's going to have a running game. He's going to have wide receivers make great catches. He's going to have offensive line that's blocking their best game of the year. I don't think Sam Ehlinger needs all that. I think Sam Ehlinger is in a place in his career where he can take this game over, be a one-man show if he has to. So that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect, I think, between those two. I think Rattler is going to be fantastic. I think he's got a bright future. I predicted he'll be in New York at some point in his career, possibly to receive a Heisman Trophy. But as it stands right now, redshirt freshman versus a senior who's been through a lot in Sam Ehlinger. Huge advantage for Texas.
The OU secondary's been through a lot. Not all of it great. A lot of it not great of late. This is the question that I can't seem to get away from. How many points are the Sooners going to have to score to win this ball game? You know, it's so strange the way it's played out because they shut out Missouri State and everybody felt good about things. And then through one half against Kansas State, they were still dominant. And since then, the wheels have fallen off, and it feels like a group that's very low on confidence and certainly has struggled to tackle and do just some of the most basic things. So many big plays have been given up against Yurcich and Ehlinger and those Texas receivers. Do you see the OU defense rising up and having a day anything like what they were able to have last year against the Texas offense? Because I don't.
Yeah, what was it, 15 tackles for loss, 9 quarterback sacks. Golly, that's going to be hard for this team to generate that kind of impact. A football sits right here, and you can't catch it. That's happened twice this year. Right here.
Yep.
You go to zero coverage, and they throw a quick slant, which is what you do against zero coverage. That means no safety back here in the middle. And your cornerback tries to play the ball, swiping across. Hey, Georgievich, play the man, not the ball, right? That's what Coach taught us in All the Right Moves. So this is basic stuff. This is basic fundamental stuff. And Oklahoma, they're not covering right now, especially the back end, the defensive backs. They're not covering. They're not tackling. If one-on-one opportunities, Deuce Vaughn slips out of the backfield and catches a little 4-yard pass, and you knew right then he was gone because there was about 7 yards of space between him and Pat Fields. Deuce Vaughn with Pat Fields trying to tackle him is a mismatch. So we've seen over the last 2 weeks, this Oklahoma defense is really struggling. So the hard part for Oklahoma this year, I don't think Texas's defense is any good.
Right.
Obviously, they've struggled the last couple of weeks. So Oklahoma's offense is going to have opportunities to do some things. But the hard part for Oklahoma is that they have leaned on that offense for the past 5 years. Guys, we need 50 points a game. We need 600 yards a game. We can't – the defense, we can't do it by ourselves. And they don't have that this year. So that's going to be the tricky part for Oklahoma. How many points are they going to have to score? My deputy editor, Parker, he picked something like 55 to 51. I think that's a little high.
That would be the highest scoring ever. 48-45 a couple years ago with Kyler was the highest. Red River.
That would be like one of those midway rides at the State Fair of Texas.
I'd be ready to get off, man.
Yeah, get me off of this thing before I hurl. So, I don't know. I do think it's going to be – I think both teams could be in the definitely high 30s, if not 40s.
Agreed. You know, in the offense, Spencer's been great, but it has come back to earth. You know, it's not in the stratosphere like it's been the last few years, and especially late in games, you know, you could count on Baker and Kyler and then even Jalen to make those big plays, and it's been tough for Rattler. I could see a breakthrough. I could see Lincoln Riley calling his best game and Spencer rising to the challenge, but I think they got to get into the 40s for sure to beat Texas. All right, 2-game losing streak. That never happened under Bob Stoops in Big 12 play. Never, ever happened. So it's been more than 20 years. These kids haven't gone through something like this. It's going to be weird. You know, the Cotton Bowl is going to be mostly empty. The atmosphere is simply not going to be what it's been. I'm just curious. I feel like, you know, after 18 years of Bob Stoops or whatever it was, we had a pretty good feel for how his teams would respond. I don't have as good a feel about how Lincoln Riley's team might respond. And then you throw in the fact that it's a Texas game, but it's also a Texas game that's different than all the other Texas games. What do you expect to see from the Sooners in terms of energy and attention to detail and just, you know, putting out a performance that's as close to whatever their A might be? What are you expecting to see Saturday?
It's tough. You're on to something. There's no doubt about it. And that is that this is a young, inexperienced, very green team. When things go sideways for them, we've seen now back-to-back games, they don't respond well. So you put them in the Cotton Bowl down in that fiery cauldron and say, go beat Texas. There's not going to be 92,000 people there. That's probably one thing in Oklahoma's favor this year. But, yeah, I can't get a feel for it either. Caden, when you start referencing John Blake years.
Yeah.
And then you start referencing Gomer Jones years, where if OU loses this game, it'll be the first time they're 1-3 since 1965.
Whoa.
Before either of us were born.
Not seen that yet.
That.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's a long time. This Oklahoma team, they've got to grow up. I think they've got 8 seniors on the 2 deep. One of them suspended. You know, basically half of them are playing. 4 of those guys are playing. 4 of them are either not playing or career backups or walk-ons. So they've got to grow up, and they've got to grow up in a hurry. My question is, can they, based on what they've been through so far?
Strange things happen in Red River games. OU's been favored every year for a lot of years, and Texas has come up and upset them several times. I know that OU is the favorite according to Vegas, but in my mind, you know, I'm not sure that's how I see it. Can you give us a pick? I don't know if you save a pick for readers, subscribers, or not. Can you give us a pick? It's okay to say no, John.
I can give you a pick. We don't have necessarily subscribers at sisooners.com, allsooners.com.
Good.
But we're going to start offering some premium content, I believe. So you might want to get in on the ground floor on that bad boy. I think I'm picking Texas. The team that runs the ball better always wins this game. 18 of the last 20 years. The team with the more experienced quarterback, 14 out of the last 17 years has won this game. Both of those go heavily in favor right now of Texas. I think Texas, I don't think they're going to be able to just run the football at will, but that's one place where Oklahoma has struggled. 3.5 yards per carry so far this season. That's abysmally bad. Lincoln Riley's usually, last year was 6 yards a carry, so they're almost to the halfway point. It's tough. I'm picking Texas. I don't really have a score yet. I will in Friday's website, but I'll pick Texas to. Is it an upset? Is it an upset when a ranked 2-1 team beats a 1-2 unranked team?
Not in my mind.
Even though the other one's favored?
Not in my mind.
No.
To me, Texas is the favorite. They got the senior quarterback. But look, OU's won 5 straight Big 12 championships. So I'm not sure how Texas sees it, to be honest. And I do think that they're more dangerous for having lost to TCU last week than they even might be at 3-0. I'm worried about the Sooners in this spot. You could count the 2013 game as a blowout. I think the final was something like 38-20, but it wasn't really, you know what I mean? It wasn't like one of those 65-13, 63-21 blowouts that OU has been on the beating end of, as in beating Texas. I would not be surprised if this thing got out of hand in favor of Texas on Saturday. I'm not picking that. I'm just saying I feel like it's in play for the first time in a very long time, where I come into this game thinking, you might just get the brakes beat off today.
To be fair now, remember, OU is 2 plays away from being 3-0 and probably ranked number 3 in the country. 2 plays. Punt, a block punt, a kickoff return, a fumble here, an interception there. So I'm not trying to paint a falsely rosy picture here, but that's the reality. They make 2 plays at some point in the fourth quarter. They're 3-0 right now.
Fair point. That's why we bring you in, John Hoover, to make fair points. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Check out his stuff, SI Sooners. Is it sisooners.com? Nobody actually types that. You know what I mean? I just Google search John Hoover and I find what I need to find, or follow you on.
There you go.
All right. Hey,
See
thanks for your time, John.
You got it. See you, man.